My husband doesn't need someone like you dragging down our future. Nothing personal, Evan, you just don't fit the image we're going for. Those were the first words Savannah Clark, my son's brand new wife, said to me. Standing in my living room. In her pearl jumpsuit. Twirling a ring my son definitely couldn't afford. She didn't blink. Didn't sit. Didn't soften. To her, it was just housekeeping. Clearing out the father-in-law who clashed with her curated aesthetic. Before we go further, here's who I am. My name is Evan Bennett, 58. High school history teacher. Modest condo, 2009 Subaru that rattles in winter, one navy suit for every occasion. $2,740 take home. A quiet man with a quiet routine. And to Savannah, that meant one thing. I didn't matter. The first real crack showed during her family's Christmas dinner. I was carrying plates to the kitchen when I heard her on the phone with a friend. He's harmless. Just a small-town teacher in a tiny condo. I spend more on heels than he earns in a month. I stood there in the doorway, dishes still warm in my hands, realizing I'd been reduced to a punchline between champagne courses. The second crack came during wedding planning. Fancy restaurants. Exclusive venues. Never inviting me. Whenever Liam brought up including me, she'd say, "Your dad wouldn't be comfortable in places like this. And we'll be discussing finances." She had judged me instantly, from my clothes, my car, my small condo, never knowing what I used to be or what I'd built since. Because what nobody knew, not Liam, not Savannah, not anyone, was that the day Liam's mother left, I gave up a high-powered finance career and chose to raise my son myself. I traded a penthouse office for a chalkboard. But I never stopped investing. Savannah didn't see any of that. She saw small. So she tried to make me smaller. A few weeks later, Liam stopped by my condo. He looked around, like my home was suddenly foreign to him. "Dad. Savannah thinks you'd be happier in a smaller place. Maybe a senior living community. She just wants what's best." "I'm 58, I said. He winced. "She's worried about the wedding photos. You know, appearances." And that was it. The moment I knew I wasn't just being pushed aside from the wedding. She was rearranging my place in my son's life. Not loudly. Quietly. Strategically. If your own child starts believing the wrong version of your life, you lose them long before they ever walk away. Then came the engagement party at Westbrook Country Club, the kind of place where every chair costs more than my car. I wore my old suit, kept my head down, tried to blend in. Savannah waited until everyone was seated and tapped her glass. "I want to thank everyone for being here. Liam and I come from different backgrounds, and that's what makes our love beautiful." She found me in the crowd. Locked eyes. "Liam's father lives a humble life, small home, simple job, and I'm grateful. It reminds Liam what he won't settle for. Small home. Simple job. Simple expectations." The guests shifted. The air went tight. She kept talking, but she'd already said what she wanted. I was the cautionary tale. The example of what Liam must rise above. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't storm out. Just kept cutting my dinner into small pieces and breathing until the humiliation settled into something colder. That night, everything changed. The final blow landed during the venue walkthrough at Hawthorne Estate. Savannah smiled that smile people use when they think they've already won. "2 front rows for immediate family," she said. "That's my parents, my siblings, and Liam's colleagues." "And me?" I asked. "Your 3rd row. Center. Perfect view." Liam tried to speak. She spoke over him. "Oh, and we're doing monetary gifts only. Easier for our lifestyle. Teachers don't always understand what counts as generous." Then she smiled again. The kind of smile people use when they think they've already won. What she didn't know. She had already triggered the clause in her own prenup. A clause she didn't read. A clause designed to protect family from exactly her brand of contempt. She had no idea her words had consequences. Real ones. Legal ones. Irreversible ones. And everything that happened next would flip her entire world upside down. Savannah believed she'd won. She thought the embarrassment she'd served me, publicly, calmly, with pearls on, would settle into my bones and stay there. She assumed I was a quiet man because I was weak, not because I was patient. But she didn't know the truth. I wasn't quiet. I was calculating. And months before she ever stepped into my house with that smug smile, I had already protected our family against the exact kind of person she turned out to be. The first trap she walked into was the prenup. She didn't even blink when Liam's lawyer slid it across the table. Savannah treated it like one of those online terms and conditions screens: scroll, 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 click accept. She was too busy admiring her ring to notice the one sentence that would determine her entire future. A clause that didn't just punish disrespect. It erased the person who showed it. It was called a character contempt clause, and it existed for one reason. To keep people who scorned family sacrifice from benefiting from family wealth. Savannah didn't read it. She didn't even pretend to. She laughed as she signed. Who would ever be against family devotion? That's like being against puppies. Liam smiled. He trusted her. And he looked torn every time he had to defend me, like a man trying to balance two truths that didn't fit in the same room. He loved her. But he loved me, too. And she was quietly forcing him to choose. Savannah's second misstep was my favorite, because it showed just how completely she misunderstood the world. For months, she'd noticed my regular meetings at a small cafe near school. Same time, same corner booth, same woman sitting across from me. A woman Savannah assumed was some lonely neighbor clinging to a broke schoolteacher. The truth? That woman was Dr. Elise Warren, my financial strategist. MBA from Wharton. Manages portfolios for people who have to pretend they don't have portfolios. Savannah thought she'd stumbled onto a romance subplot. She didn't realize she was walking past a Shark Tank. And Elise? She adored how clueless Savannah was. "You're giving her too much credit," Elise told me once, stirring her coffee. "She's not scheming. She's shallow. Shallow people become predictable the moment you stop being intimidated by them." She was right. Savannah didn't understand power. She only understood appearance. That would cost her. The third seed Savannah overlooked wasn't hidden at all. It was in plain sight, posted on bulletin boards, mentioned in school newsletters, printed on invitations she threw away without reading. Once a year, the city hosted a gala honoring excellence in education. Savannah had heard of it. She assumed it was a small-town teacher banquet with rubber chicken and lukewarm speeches. What she didn't know was that the event doubled as a fundraiser where wealthy donors quietly dropped 5-figure checks, and occasionally, 6-figure ones. This year, I had contributed something unusual. $500,000. Anonymous. For scholarships. For students from single-parent homes. For kids who reminded me of Liam at 8 years old, sitting on the kitchen floor after his mother left. Liam had finally agreed to attend the gala with me. Savannah invited herself. Because if there was a spotlight, she wanted to stand in it. But she didn't know that the spotlight wasn't going to illuminate her. It was going to expose her. The night before the gala, Liam stopped by my condo again. He looked exhausted, the kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from work, but from constantly defending someone's behavior. "Dad. I don't know how to navigate this," he admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. Savannah thinks the gala will be boring, but she wants to go because people from the Clark Foundation will be there. There it was. Her motive, plain as day. Not love. Not family. Not curiosity about my career. She wanted proximity to influence. Connections. A stepping stone. I didn't criticize her. I didn't need to. People like Savannah always reveal themselves. All you have to do is let them talk long enough. You'll see things clearly soon, I told him. And he would. Sooner than either of them expected. When Liam left, I sat in my study, the same quiet space Savannah had mocked, and reviewed 20 years of investment charts. The lines climbing. The dividends growing. The hundreds of hours spent planning Liam's future down to the last detail. The houseplants in the windowsill. The creaking bookshelf. The same chair I'd graded papers in since 2006. It wasn't much to Savannah. But it was enough. Because I already knew what the gala would become. Not a celebration. Not a fundraiser. A mirror. One Savannah would be forced to look into. Savannah thought the gala would be harmless. She didn't know it was the night her reflection would finally show her the truth. And the truth? It was going to ruin her carefully curated world. The gala at the Grand Elmwood Hotel was exactly the kind of place Savannah liked to pretend she belonged in. Marble floors polished like ice. A chandelier dripping crystals like rain frozen mid-fall. A valet line crowded with cars that cost more than my condo. Savannah stepped out of Liam's sedan as if she expected cameras. Straight back. Chin high. Black designer dress hugging her like she'd been poured into it. She wasn't walking into an event. She was walking into a stage. And she expected to be the star. Let's head straight in, she murmured to Liam. My parents know some of the foundation donors, so, keep up. Not, let's enjoy the night. Not, I'm glad we're doing this together. No. Savannah was here to be seen. Liam gave a small, apologetic smile, toward me, not her. A man caught between two worlds. Two truths. One of them cracking. Inside, the ballroom glowed in soft gold lighting. Conversations hummed. Laughter floated near the bar. And then. Elise. I heard someone call. Savannah's head swiveled. My financial strategist, Dr. Elise Warren, approached in a charcoal dress and heels sharp enough to cut glass. She moved through the crowd with the quiet authority of someone who belonged in the kind of room Savannah only posed for. Evan, she said warmly, touching my arm. I'm glad you made it. Savannah blinked. What are you two doing here together? Elise handles my financial strategy, I said simply. Her smile twitched. Just a twitch. But enough. Your financial strategy, she repeated, as if tasting words she didn't recognize. Elise extended her hand. And you must be Savannah. Savannah shook it like she was trying to guess the price of Elise's watch without staring at it directly. She guessed wrong. Way wrong. We were seated toward the back, not VIP territory, but comfortable enough. Savannah eyed the front tables longingly, clearly disappointed she wasn't close to the donors she'd hoped to impress. She didn't see their eyes on her. Not admiration. Curiosity. Judgment. The ceremony started. Small awards. Short speeches. Savannah checked her phone 3 times. This is cute, she whispered to Liam. Kind of like a school assembly with nicer lighting. She didn't know the donors heard her. People like Savannah never realize when the room is listening. Then Principal Harrington returned to the microphone. Tonight, he said, we honor someone extraordinary. The air shifted. Savannah straightened slightly. This year, an anonymous donor contributed a transformative sum, $500,000, to support students raised by single parents. A pulse of whispers moved through the crowd. Savannah inhaled sharply, eyes glittering. Not with admiration. With ambition. She scanned the room, searching diamond earrings, cufflinks, expensive watches, trying to place the donor. She didn't glance my way. Not even once. Tonight, Harrington continued, the donor has agreed to accept recognition publicly. It is my honor to present the Lifetime Impact Award to. A suspenseful pause. Mr. Evan Bennett. Liam froze. Savannah's smile flickered. Then her jaw tightened, barely noticeable, followed by a twitch in her fingers, like she wasn't sure whether to clap or run. And when the applause erupted around us, her champagne glass slipped. Shattered against the floor. Her panic had arrived. As I walked to the stage, the applause swelled. Years of quiet work, things no one ever saw, were echoing off marble and glass. I took the podium. Thank you, I said softly. I'll keep this short. The room stilled. I became a teacher 20 years ago, but I didn't walk into that classroom empty-handed. My years in finance taught me something valuable, that smart investments grow even when your life takes a different direction. A ripple of recognition moved through the room. Savannah stared like she was watching a stranger. And some people think a teacher's life is modest or simple. I let the word hang, the same word Savannah used at the engagement party. Her face tightened. But simplicity, I continued, isn't the opposite of success. Sometimes it's the foundation of it. Whispers. Nods. Even a few impressed smiles. I invested consistently. Quietly. And because of that, the portfolio I built over the years has grown to. I paused. $30.8 million. Gasps erupted. Someone choked on a sip of water. And Savannah's face drained so fast I thought she might faint. Returning to the table felt unreal. Liam's eyes glistened. Dad, he whispered, voice cracking, I let her talk about you like that. I believe things she said. I'm so sorry. I placed a hand on his shoulder. You see clearly now. That's what matters. Savannah sat completely still, like a statue carved out of panic and pride. You're wealthy? She finally breathed. No, I said. I'm prepared. Her throat bobbed. Prepared sounded worse. Prepared meant intentional. Sharp. Strategic. Prepared meant she had underestimated not just a man, but the wrong man. What happens now? She whispered. I looked her in the eye. Now. Now you learn what consequences look like. Because the gala wasn't just a reveal. It was a switch. A trigger. A forgotten line in a document she signed without reading. The night wasn't about money. It was about the clause. The character contempt clause. The thing designed to protect my family from someone exactly like her. Her smile had finally cracked. And soon, her world would too. Savannah didn't fall apart all at once. People rarely do. They crack in stages. And the first crack wasn't the trembling hands or the pale cheeks or the way she kept swallowing like her throat had dried up. It was the flicker in her expression when Patricia Wong placed the thick folder on the polished conference table. A flicker that said, something is wrong, but I can still talk my way out of it. She straightened her posture, smoothed her blazer, and forced a smile at the room. That was crack one, denial. Harrison Mitchell, her family's attorney, cleared his throat hard enough to betray his nerves. I've reviewed the prenuptial agreement, and there appears to be a complication. Savannah's jaw tightened. Complication, she repeated, but there was steel in her voice, the steel of someone who had never heard the word no in a meaningful way. Crack 2, anger warming beneath the surface. Patricia Wong opened the folder with calm precision. The prenup contains a character contempt clause. The clause activates if either spouse demonstrates persistent disrespect toward parental sacrifice or family contributions. Savannah laughed sharply, too sharply. You're joking. That's absurd. How do you even measure something like that? Patricia slid a USB drive toward the center of the table. With video, Mrs. Carter. Savannah's eyes darted down at it, then up again, moving a little too fast. Crack 3, fear. A subtle one. But it was there. Patricia continued. This drive contains security footage from the Brookmont Country Club's engagement dinner. It includes your speech where you... Savannah cut her off. That was, people misunderstood the tone. It was a joke. Obviously. Everyone laughs at those things. No one laughed, I said gently. Her eyes snapped to mine, defensive, wounded, cornered. Crack 4, defensiveness. Patricia added, we also have 12 written statements from witnesses describing your remarks as degrading, humiliating, and intentionally dismissive. Savannah's mouth opened, then shut. Her confidence was beginning to evaporate. And, Patricia said, sliding her phone across the table, the viral video has compounded the issue. Savannah flinched as she saw the screen. A TikTok compilation. Millions of views. Her voice echoing. Evan lives a small life, and that's fine, I guess. Some people just find their level. Liam deserves more than his father ever gave. The comments were brutal. She married for money and missed the money. Imagine humiliating a millionaire philanthropist. This is top-tier karma. And worse than that. Screenshots of Forbes articles. Old college girls tagging her with laughing emojis. One influencer she admired publicly unfollowing her with a cryptic post. Careful who you look down on. Her face reddened with rising humiliation. Crack 5, image collapse. Liam sat beside her, shoulders stiff, eyes shining with something raw. Not just shock. Not just betrayal. Conflict. I defended you, he whispered. I told my dad you didn't mean those comments. I tried so hard to believe you were just stressed. Savannah turned sharply toward him. Liam, He shook his head, voice trembling. But you made me look blind. You made me doubt my own father. Her chin wobbled. That one hurt her more than anything the lawyers had said. Crack 6, the beginning of remorse or something like it. Patricia slid a second document across the table, slowly, deliberately. Mrs. Carter, this is the formal activation notice of the character contempt clause. Savannah didn't touch it. Her hands hovered, trembling. Her breathing grew shallow. The silence lasted a full 10 seconds. The kind of silence that feels like standing on a cliff edge. What happens when that's filed? She whispered. Her voice was barely audible now. Patricia folded her hands. It means you forfeit all access to marital assets derived from the Carter family trust. Those assets remain with the family and cannot be contested. Savannah stared as if she were reading another language. Behind the panic, I saw something else. The realization that she had married a future she thought she could control, and she had lost the controls entirely. She swallowed. So, what am I left with? Patricia pulled out one final document. This, Patricia said, is Evan's proposed settlement. Liam watched her carefully. His voice was steadier now, but heavy with emotion. Just read it, Savannah. Her hands shook as she lifted the paper. Her eyes skimmed down the page, widening with every line. Then she whispered. $500,000. Her voice broke. That's it? That's more than generous, Patricia replied. Given your conduct, I added warmly, not vindictive, not triumphant, it's more than fair. Savannah's breath hitched. Then the tears came. Not dramatic sobs. Just quiet, stunned crying, the kind that comes when reality finally lands. Crack 7, acceptance. The final stage. You can sign the settlement, Patricia said. Or you can fight it and receive nothing. Not now. Not later. Not ever. Savannah slowly lowered the document. When she finally spoke, her voice sounded hollow. Do you want me to stay married to your son? Liam closed his eyes. He looked devastated, not angry anymore. Just grieving the version of love he thought he had. I wanted you in my life, he said softly. I just didn't know you only wanted the lifestyle. Savannah pressed a hand to her mouth. For the first time ever, she was speechless. The room waited. Her lawyer exhaled heavily. Savannah, you should sign. She looked at me. Her voice was barely a whisper. Will you help me fix my reputation? I shook my head gently. For seconds to erase the future she'd imagined. For seconds to seal her fate. When she finished, Liam quietly slid her wedding ring off her finger. She didn't resist. She simply stared at the table, as if she could still see the life she thought she was entitled to. And then she left the room without another word. The door clicked shut behind her. It sounded like the end of a chapter. But not the end of the story. Not yet. Because what comes after collapse is consequence. Savannah always believed consequences were for other people. People with fewer connections. People without polished smiles and curated lives. People who couldn't afford to outrun a little humiliation. But when her world finally collapsed, it didn't crumble quietly. It imploded, fast, loud, and everywhere at once. And the worst part? No one had to lift a finger. The truth did the work on its own. The clip from the Educators Gala spread across the internet faster than any of us imagined. By Wednesday morning, it had passed 8 million views. The caption that went global was brutal. When the broke father-in-law turns out to be a millionaire philanthropist. The comments were sharper. She married for money, and still ended up broke. Dragging a teacher. Girl, read the room. Karma stopped being subtle with this one. She mocked the man funding scholarships for kids like her. Imagine humiliating someone whose net worth could buy your parents' house 10 times over. Savannah tried turning off comments. Tried deleting posts. Tried messaging platforms about privacy violations. Screenshots laughed in her face. On Thursday afternoon, her email chimed with a message from the marketing firm that occasionally hired her for event work and product shoots. She had been the face of a local boutique's Elegance Made Simple campaign. The email subject line made her stomach drop. Contract suspension notice. The body was colder. Given recent public controversy, we are pausing all current and future collaborations until further notice. We represent brands that value integrity and community leadership. We hope you understand. Savannah read it 3 times. Then buried her face in her hands. This wasn't supposed to happen to me, she whispered into her palms. The first honest thing she'd said in months. Not angry. Not entitled. Just scared. Human, finally. Her elite Mansfield Shores circle wasn't kinder. First her friend Madeline unfollowed. Then Chloe. Then the entire wedding party's group chat quietly dissolved without warning. By evening, a new group chat formed behind her back. Liam later heard about it from a friend. Its title? Lessons in Quiet Wealth. Savannah's humiliation became a cautionary tale among the same people she used to impress. But the real blow came Friday morning, when the chairwoman of the Mansfield Charity League, the organization Savannah bragged about non-stop, sent her a polite, merciless text. Given current circumstances, we believe it's best if you step back from the Spring Gala committee. Thank you for understanding. The message ended with a heart emoji. The digital equivalent of a knife wrapped in satin. At her parents' home, things weren't much better. Her father paced the kitchen like a man doing damage control for a failing corporation. Her mother cried, not because Savannah was hurt, but because the neighbors had seen the news. They weren't asking if Savannah was okay. They were asking. Is it true she said all that on camera? Her mother's response was a strained whisper. I didn't raise her to speak like that in public. Again, the issue wasn't the cruelty. It was the exposure. That's when the last thread snapped. Savannah slammed her phone on the counter and shouted. Why is everyone acting like I ruined their lives? Her father didn't look up. Because you embarrassed us, he said quietly. And hanging over all of it like a storm cloud? The document she had signed 2 days earlier. The settlement that stripped her of any claim to Liam's future wealth. Before the wedding was even a month old, she had legally surrendered. The right to marital assets. The right to future earnings from the Carter Trust. The right to any inheritance tied to Evan's portfolio. All of it. Gone. She didn't even realize until after signing that she'd effectively traded a lifetime of financial stability for a one-time check that wouldn't last half as long as she fantasized. Every time she thought about it, she felt the same sick drop in her stomach. What have I done? No one answered. Friday evening, Liam showed up at my condo looking years older. He sat at my counter without touching his coffee. Dad, she called me today. Said she wants to repair our image. Not our marriage. Our image. I didn't interrupt him. He needed to say it out loud. He rubbed his eyes with the heel of his hands. She said, and I quote, we can still look like a power couple if we spin this the right way. His voice cracked. I defended her, Dad. I justified her behavior. I made excuses for every cruel thing she said about you. And she still cares more about appearances than she ever cared about me. He dropped his face into his hands and shook his head. I feel stupid. I feel blind. I placed a hand on his shoulder. You weren't blind, I said softly. You were hopeful. There's a difference. He looked up at me with wet eyes. I want out. I want a divorce. There was no hesitation in his tone. Just calm, steady certainty. The kind that comes from a man who finally sees truth without distortion. In the days that followed, something changed between us. Liam started visiting more. Talking more. Listening more. For the first time in years, he wasn't rushing conversations. Wasn't distracted. Wasn't defensive. He wanted to understand my choices. My past. The things I sacrificed to raise him. One evening, while we ate leftover pasta in my quiet kitchen, he asked. Dad, why didn't you ever tell me about your investments? About the company experience? About any of it? I smiled softly. Because I wanted you to respect me for the life I built around you, not the money I built quietly behind you. He stared at me, really seeing me, maybe for the first time. You didn't want wealth to shape me, he said. No, I replied. I wanted character to shape you. Behind the scenes of our healing, Savannah spiraled deeper. Clipped emails. Voicemails from reporters. Group chats she was removed from. A charity board distancing itself. A sponsorship gone. Friends evaporating. The walls closed in fast. And for the first time, she had no audience to perform for. Only silence. And consequences. That combination reveals character more honestly than any spotlight. Saturday morning, a news outlet messaged her. We'd like to interview you about being married into a wealthy philanthropic family. At first she lit up. The old thrill of attention sparking in her chest. But then she opened the attached article. My photo at the gala. My donations. My investments. My work with underprivileged students. Her name appeared twice. Once described as a contrast in values. Once quoted directly from her engagement party humiliation. She read the article twice. Then once more. And something inside her cracked. She called Liam immediately. Not crying. Not apologizing. Begging. Liam, we can fix this. We just have to control the narrative. He cut her off gently. Savannah, you're still thinking about the narrative. What else is there? She snapped. There's character. Silence. Her breathing hitched. Liam, please don't leave me. He exhaled. I'm not leaving you, Savannah. I'm leaving the person you pretended to be. He ended the call. Savannah didn't call again. Because that was the moment she knew. Everything she built was gone. Everything she mocked was stronger. And everything she ran from was finally catching up. The week after Liam ended the marriage felt like the world inhaled but didn't exhale. Too quiet. Too still. Like everyone was waiting for something to break. Savannah vanished from the internet. Her parents' home stayed dim. Liam drifted through the days like a man suddenly made aware of gravity. And in that uneasy silence, the truth finally had space to surface. Thursday morning, Liam walked into my condo without knocking. Not out of entitlement, out of exhaustion. He stood by the door for a few seconds, eyes unfocused, shoulders sagging under a weight he was still learning how to carry. Dad, he said softly, can we talk? Really talk? I nodded. We sat at the table, two adults, not a father and a boy. Two people finally ready to see each other clearly. He exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. There's one thing I can't wrap my head around, your investments. The trust. How you built all of it on a teacher's income. He looked up, confusion shadowed by something deeper. Hurt. Wonder. Guilt. This was the moment I'd kept sealed for 2 decades. Time to open it. I didn't start from nothing, I began quietly. Before teaching, Liam. I lived a very different life. His brows pulled together. You said you worked in finance, but you never really explained. I nodded. I worked in private equity. High-risk portfolios. Multi-million-dollar deals. The kind of rooms where everyone pretended to be immortal. He stared at me. You were one of those guys? Serious finance? Serious enough, I said. Too serious. Too consuming. He blinked at me, stunned. Why would you ever give that up? I leaned forward, voice lower now. Because the day your mother left, I was preparing to close the biggest deal of my career. While you sat at home waiting for a parent who wasn't coming back. He swallowed hard. That day, I continued, I realized something terrifyingly simple. What? He whispered. That I could be a wealthy man with no son. Or a present father with enough. He didn't speak. He didn't move. Just breathed in sharply, the kind of breath someone takes when their entire understanding of their life cracks open. For a long time, Liam didn't say a word. He just sat there absorbing it, not shocked, not angry. Humbled. Like a man realizing his life had been built on sacrifices he never even saw. Only after that silence settled did the world begin spinning again. Eventually, he whispered, but how did you grow it? The trust, 30 million, all of that. I allowed a small smile. I didn't forget what I learned. I had early capital, bonuses, severance, savings. I invested quietly. Patiently. While living on my teacher's salary. He shook his head slowly. All this time, people thought you had nothing. That was deliberate, I said. Why would you hide something like that? Because I wanted you to understand value before wealth. If you learn money first, it becomes your map. If you learn value first, money becomes just a tool. He breathed out, an exhale full of realization. Savannah never saw value, he murmured. No, I said. She only ever saw reflections. While Liam processed the truth, Savannah's life constricted around her like a tightening rope. Her mother messaged Liam first. Please, she's not herself. Her father emailed me. This is hurting our family reputation. Any help clarifying things would be appreciated. But the real collapse happened late one night, alone in her parents' dark guest bedroom. Liam told me she called him sobbing, not performative tears, not manipulation. Real fear. Her voice was small, hoarse. Liam, I don't know who I am without the future I thought I was building. For a moment, just a moment, there was no arrogance in her. No entitlement. Just a woman staring at the ruins of her own choices. Then, as quickly as it appeared, the vulnerability vanished under panic. I can still fix this, she insisted. I can shape the narrative. Liam hung up. You cannot rebuild a life from the PR department. That night, he stayed on my balcony until the air grew cold. He stared at the city lights like they were constellations spelling out answers. Dad. A whisper. Why didn't you ever tell me any of this? Because I didn't want money to write your story. He nodded, but his jaw trembled. I keep thinking. He hesitated, voice cracking. What if I become someone like her? What if? I don't know how to choose better. There it was. His messy doubt. His fear. His humanity. I put a hand on his back. You don't become someone like Savannah by accident. You become that way by ignoring who you are. And you're not that man. He looked at me, eyes glassy. You sound so sure. I am. How? Because you're asking the question, I said simply. People like Savannah never do. Over the next week, something subtle but powerful changed in Liam. He didn't suddenly transform into a perfect man. He doubted himself. He hesitated. He reread the same investing chapter 3 times. He apologized to me twice without needing to. He wasn't becoming me. He was becoming someone better. A man who wanted to live intentionally. On Sunday evening, as he slipped on his jacket to leave, I said. There's something I want to show you tomorrow. He paused. A financial thing? In a sense, I said with a soft smile. But not about money. About purpose. He looked both intrigued and unsure. Why tomorrow? Because today you were still grieving, I said. And tomorrow? I think you'll be ready. He nodded once, slowly. Okay. Tomorrow. He closed the door gently behind him. And in that quiet moment, I knew. But it would be the beginning of the true inheritance I'd always intended for him. Not wealth. Wisdom. Responsibility. Legacy. And somewhere out there, Savannah was discovering her darkest consequence yet. The world was moving on without her. Savannah's silence lasted 3 days. Not the angry silence she once used to punish people, no. This was something different. Something hollow. Something like a person standing in the middle of a life she'd set on fire and only now realizing the flames were hers. Liam didn't mention her at first. He went through motions, work, sleep, routine, but I could see the war behind his eyes. Guilt and relief pulling at him like 2 ropes tied to his ribs. On the 4th evening, he came by my condo just as the sun dipped behind the row of maple trees. Dad, he said, voice low, can we talk? Of course. He sat at the small kitchen table, the same one he'd done science projects on at age 9, and rested his hands flat against the wood. The silence stretched. Finally, he exhaled. Dad, what if I become someone like her? There it was. The fear beneath every other fear. I leaned back slowly. You won't, I said. Because you're asking that question. Savannah never did. He nodded, swallowing hard. I trusted her. I defended her. And she made me look blind. You weren't blind, Liam, I said gently. You were in love. There's a difference. For a long moment, he didn't speak. Then he looked up. Dad. I want to see the place. The community center. The program you talked about. His voice wasn't confident. It was searching. I grabbed my keys. Let's go. We drove in quiet, not tense, not awkward, just quiet. The kind of quiet you get when someone is stepping into a part of their life they hadn't expected, and they're trying to figure out if it's too big or if maybe, just maybe, they're big enough for it. When we reached the renovated old brick building on Jefferson Street, Liam paused on the sidewalk. He kept glancing at me, eyes flicking like a kid watching a magician's hands. Like he knew something big was about to happen but wasn't sure he could handle it. You okay? I asked. He nodded, but not convincingly. Yeah. I'm just scared I won't measure up. You're not supposed to measure up to me, I said softly. You're supposed to build something that fits you. He didn't reply, but something in his shoulders eased. Inside, the lights were warm. The second-hand tables polished. The binder stacks neatly arranged. A printed banner on the far wall read, William's Initiative for Financial Literacy, first cohort launching soon. Liam stared at it like he wasn't sure the words belonged to him. I walked him through the rooms. The office space. The workshop area. The tiny recording booth, for future online classes. The storage closet full of donated laptops. He listened carefully, hands in pockets, jaw tight. Finally, he spoke. And you really think I can run this? No, I said. He blinked. I smiled. I think you can build this. A tiny breath left him, something between relief and hope. When we returned to the front desk, my phone buzzed. It was a voice message from Savannah. I didn't open it. But the first 2 seconds automatically previewed on the screen. Her voice cracked. Liam. I don't know how to be who I pretended to be. Just that. 7 words. Soft. Tired. Human. I didn't comment. I simply locked the phone and slid it back into my pocket. Liam didn't ask to hear the rest. He just whispered. Dad. I think that's the first honest thing she's ever said. We walked deeper into the center again, Liam trailing his fingers along the wall he hadn't helped build but was now responsible for. Dad, if I do this, I don't want to fail. You will, I said. He turned sharply. But that's part of it. Failure is a blueprint. You redraw. You adjust. And you build again. His breath steadied. I could almost see the shift, the subtle click where fear turns into intention. Then he stepped into the small office, the one I'd quietly hoped would one day be his, and sat down in the chair behind the desk. He looked around the room. At the shelves. The whiteboard. The grant folders. The stack of curriculum drafts. And then he said it. Dad, this is bigger than me. No, I replied. This is because of you. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. All right, he whispered. Show me where to start. We left the center long after the streetlights blinked on. The night air smelled like rain, the kind of air that makes the world feel reset. As we walked to the car, Liam said. I don't know what my future looks like. Good, I said. That means you're paying attention. He laughed softly. A real laugh, not the brittle ones he'd used with Savannah. And for the first time since everything collapsed, he didn't look lost. He looked ready to learn. Not ready to lead. Not ready to take over. Not ready to replace me. Just ready to start. And that was enough. The first class for the Bennett Clark Initiative was set for a Thursday night. 12 people came. Not 24. Not the full list of registrants. Just 12. And strangely, it felt right. Liam walked to the front of the room with a stack of handouts tucked under one arm, looking like a man trying to grow into a shirt he'd never worn before. He took a breath. I appreciate all of you being here, he began. No tremble. No apology. Just steady ground. The kind you don't see until it holds your weight. About halfway through the class, a young mother raised her hand. She looked exhausted, the kind of exhaustion only 2 jobs and a toddler can sculpt. I'm embarrassed, she said quietly. I'm behind on everything. Bills, rent, life. I don't even know where to start. It all feels pointless. The room went still. Every fear Savannah once planted in Liam, every insecurity, every doubt, flickered across his face. But then something else appeared. Understanding. He stepped closer to her desk. When I was your age, he said softly, I thought starting late meant losing. But I've learned something from my father. You don't lose because you start small. You lose when you stop moving. Her eyes welled up. Mine did too. For the first time, Liam wasn't repeating something I taught him. He was teaching it. After class, as we were cleaning up, Liam's phone buzzed. Savannah. A single line. Liam. I don't know how to be the person I pretended to be. His expression changed, not anger, not longing. Just quiet sadness. Dad, he said, sliding the phone away, that's not my battle anymore. He didn't block her. He didn't respond. He simply made peace with the silence. Sometimes the bravest thing a man can do is not answer. 2 days later, her mother, Linda, called me. Not to bargain. Not to plead. Just to tell the truth. She's leaving New York for a while, she said. She said she needs to find out who she is when nobody's watching. A pause. Evan, thank you for not destroying her. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. Consequences had done their own work. 2 weeks later, the district superintendent invited me to lunch. We'd like to put your name on the center, she said. I shook my head. Name it after the 2 people who shaped my son's story, I replied. My family name. And his mother's. She blinked. You want both? Yes, I said simply. Legacy isn't a single line. It's a structure. And that's how, 3 months later, a new sign was unveiled. Founded to honor the parents who built quietly. Liam stood there staring at the sign like it was a sunrise he never expected. Then his face shifted, not toward the present, but toward memory. Dad, he whispered, I remember Savannah saying you wouldn't photograph well. He looked up at the sign again, voice trembling somewhere between wonder and justice. Now your name is on a building. I smiled. Names fade, I said. But work doesn't. He swallowed hard and nodded. That evening, we sat in the old workshop room, the same room where Savannah once judged my clothes and my income. The same room where Liam learned to swing a hammer years ago. Now he sat across from me, older than his age, wiser than his past. Dad, he said quietly, what if I mess this up? What if I can't be who you are for these people? You're not supposed to be me, I said. You're supposed to be someone better. Someone who learned from my mistakes, not just my successes. He looked at his hands. Do you really think I can do this? No, I said. He froze. I know you can. His shoulders relaxed. The fear drained out. And something steadier took its place. Purpose. My whole life, he said, I thought success was money. Or status. Or, avoiding becoming you. I raised an eyebrow. He laughed softly, the first real laugh in weeks. But now I think success is just, carrying the right things forward. He looked at the whiteboard behind me, the leftover marker stains from class. And I think I finally know what to carry. When he left for the night, I lingered in the empty room. Dust drifted in a warm beam across the desks. The old clock on the wall ticked like a calm heartbeat. I walked to the whiteboard and, in a clean corner, wrote. One day someone else will write here. And that's how legacy works. I capped the marker, inhaled the quiet, and turned off the lights. I locked the door behind me and stepped into the cool night. My steps were slower now. Age does that. But the work behind me? The building? It would move forward without me. It was supposed to. Because the truest wealth isn't what you leave in the bank. It's what you leave in people. And my son was finally rich.